So, welcome everyone. This is the fourth and final classroom session for the Collective Learning Certificate Supply Chain for Health. This course has been specifically designed for Zimbabwe health professionals. And I have been going through the various responses and discussions, and it seems there's a lot of materials that you have found useful, and we sincerely hope that uh, what you are learning will make a difference in your workplace. So, welcome and congratulations on being with us until today, and a few more days left before this course finishes. And we hope all of you who have started this course are able to finish it and get the certificate of achievement, which is also a CPD certificate. So, for today's session, we are focusing on downstream functions, which is part of module 6. And today's topic is outsourcing. This poll we are going to do at the end of the session so that we know how you feel after the session. So every time we do it in the beginning, so let's do it at the end today. So I had asked everyone that if you had any questions about any of the concepts that you have gone through between weeks 1 to 3 or even this week itself, you can ask me. We can have a quick Q&A before we go into today's session. So anyone, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand, or you can put the question in the chat. I will wait for a minute or two, and if any question comes, then I will respond to it. If there are no questions, then I would seem to think that you really understand what we are trying to uh, put together in the course. So that's great. And then I will talk about the final assessment as well because that's important. Wilson, if you are still here, maybe you want to speak a couple of words just for encouragement because now we're at the last week and everyone is doing great. Wilson, if you can hear me. So, any questions are welcome. And if Wilson, if you can hear me, it would be nice to hear from you and a couple of words of encouragement. If you're not able to speak, then you can also put it in the chat. I will read out on your behalf. But for everyone else, is there any question that you want me to explain in a bit more detail? Some comments that I read about last week's discussion. Some of them they said that it was quite intense. They have to revisit everything again so that they get a better idea. I think that's a very good point. I know it's very intense because we're trying to. So the case that we have designed, it is actually based on a very comprehensive procurement strategy. And if you don't work in procurement, it is not very simple to understand it, like understand it fully. So please go through it a couple of times, the answers and the discussions, so you will get a better idea. Also, I also read some comments saying that although the quantification exercises were excellent, but then the Excel formulas and the calculations are a bit tough. I totally understand. I would really recommend you to go through some basic to intermediate Excel courses on YouTube. Yeah. So I haven't received any questions. So in that case, I would move forward. But just before I do, can anyone just let me know that am I audible so that I know that I have been speaking and you have heard everything what I've said so far. So anyone can just unmute and say that, okay, I am audible.
I can hear you well.
Audible.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's.
Hi, audible.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move ahead with today's session. Okay, so before we do that, I would like to show you the progress of the entire cohort until midday today. So as you see, the ideal progress, the green bar, it should be around 54. And I would like to congratulate Senzelwe, Faith, Maxwell, Andrew, Barbara, Bellington, all the way up to Thompson, who are like in the highest percentile of completion. And I would like to encourage Blessed, Lloyd, and Leonora. Although I'm not sure if I see them in the call, but if they are, then I would really encourage you to pick up the pace. You have a very few days left to finish this course. I have been monitoring your progress personally, and I know a lot of you have made excellent effort over the past few days uh, to finish a lot of modules. Some of you may have reached slightly ahead than what is depicted here because this was taken a few hours before. So don't worry about it. This is just for information. We are not trying to scold anyone that okay, why are you not at 54, for example. So you still have suddenly we have lots of people drop out, maybe a power outage or something. Anyways, this is just to say that you still have several days until 5th of February to finish the course. So ideally, the course was going to finish by end of this week, but we have given you a few more days upon request from some participants who were a bit behind. So you still have time until 5th February to finish the course. A key element of uh, a key element for finishing this course is the final assessment. The final assessment has 50 questions, and you get 30 minutes to complete them. So they're all mostly multiple choice questions, matching questions, um, true, false, these kind of questions. So there aren't any subjective text-based questions. So it's mostly you will have some options to choose from. Those 50 questions, they are different from all the quizzes that you have gone through within the modules. So in each module, you have gone through a quiz after the end of that module. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that the final 50 questions are different from the existing quizzes. And they are based on a couple of things. One, all the videos and discussions and everything that you have gone through, assignments, everything. So it will have questions from all those things. Second, there are some questions from the classroom sessions, the 4 classroom sessions that you should have gone through. So ideally, if you have not attended one of the classroom sessions, you should go back and listen to the recording. All the recordings are available. They have been sent to you on emails, and I think they're also uploaded on the group, the Hive group, which all of you are part of. Number 3, there are also some questions, 10 to 15% of questions, which have been developed based on the additional materials which we have been giving you as part of each module and lesson. So if you don't go through the entire course properly, so, listening to all the videos, going through all the discussions, going through all the additional materials, participating in the classroom sessions, it might prove to be difficult in achieving 60% in the final assessment. To complete the final assessment, you have to achieve 60% or higher. So I say this again, the final assessment has 50 questions. You get 30 minutes to finish those 50 questions. You have 5 attempts. Okay. So you will get 5 attempts. So if you do not uh, pass it in the first attempt, or the second attempt, you have multiple attempts. So make sure you do not, you know, undertake that assessment in a hurry, because there will be a great chance that you may not be able to achieve 60%, because it's a bit tough. That assessment is a bit tough. Now, the reason it is a bit tough is because of the standards we have been imposed. So on us, the standards have been imposed by our certification agency, which is the CPD certification agency. Okay. So they have imposed that kind of standard on us, that there has to be 50 questions. There has to be a limited time to do that. You can give multiple attempts, and the questions should cover the entire course. So they have audited our course, and based on that, the final assessment has been created. So we do not have any choice. There will be no leeway on that. We have given a lots of leeways within the course. So we have extended the course. We have given holidays because it was a holiday season. People who can't attend the classroom session, we share the video recordings as well. We also make sure that you don't face any administrative issues, so that we respond to your queries as soon as possible. But in the final assessment, we will not be able to give any leeway, any wiggle room. Okay. And if you don't pass the assessment in 5 attempts and you still want to achieve the certificate, then you have to pay a penalty. You will get more attempts. In those attempts, you have to pass the assessment. In the second time, when you get those 5 attempts, that will be the final time you will get it, after paying one penalty. Okay. You can't get it the third time. So make sure you revise the course after going through it. Make sure you know all the basic concepts throughout the course which have been covered, uh, so that you are able to pass the final assessment. And I can share one more statistic with you. So historically, of all the 400 plus students who have completed and passed this course, CLC1, on average, it takes them 3 attempts to pass it. 3 attempts. That is an average statistic. Okay. So generally what people do, they undertake the assessment one time. They figure out some of the questions where they are weak, and then they'll go and revise again, and then they come and take the assessment again, so that sure shot they're able to pass it. Okay. So please keep that in mind. We will not entertain any query saying that, oh, I have not been able to pass this assessment or this and that. Please, open it one more time. That is when one query that we cannot entertain, because if we do that, then we will be in contempt of our certification, and we may eventually lose it if those things are reported to the agency. Okay. So please take that into account. It's my humble request to you, so that all of you are able to pass um, the course. Okay. Because we would really like that everyone gets the CPD certificate. Okay. So with that, let's move on. So what are we doing this week? There are 2 modules. Module 6, downstream functions, warehousing, distribution, inventory management, all those things are covered. Then module 7 is enabling functions. So there's an overview of enabling functions like data management, quality assurance, human resources, infrastructure, everything. There is a different course altogether, which is a much more detailed account of enabling functions, that is CLC2. So once you pass CLC1, very soon we will also launch CLC2 for Zimbabwe. So you can also participate in that course. So if you do that course, you will have a 360-degree overview of supply chain, and you will be able to eventually act as supervisors or managers, because as managers you should have an overall understanding of how supply chains function, because it's not just about the core functions like product selection, quantification, procurement, warehousing, distribution. There is much more behind the scenes which goes on. Okay, so all that is covered in the enabling functions topic. So in this course you will get an overview, but there is a bigger course which is totally dedicated to all those enabling functions. There are some discussions in module 6 and module 7. I have been looking at some of the responses in module 6, and I have been asking further questions. And as you also participate in the module 7 discussions, I will also look at them and respond to some of the responses. Then finally, there is an assignment which is linked with module 4. It is on last mile distribution. You can do the assignment by yourself. It is not a group assignment. You will get some questions and you have to respond to those questions and upload a PowerPoint. Okay, so make sure you create a PowerPoint and upload it. Okay, so this is more or less what needs to happen in the final week of the course. Okay, so before we move on to outsourcing, there was a discussion also on this, and I asked a question to everyone. What I want to understand is what works when. When is the good, or what is a good system when where a push distribution model can work, versus what is a good system where pull distribution can work. And I hope everyone understands what is push versus pull. So anyone who would like to respond to this? I've seen several responses in this discussion as well, from Andrew, from Kumbirai, from Faith, Olga. So all of you, if you want to talk a bit more about your responses and in general about push versus pull system, and what do you think works better or in what context. So I will just pause for a few seconds to see if anyone wants to respond to this. Otherwise, we'll move forward. I'll give a summary at the end, of course.
Can I come in?
Yes, please, Andrew. Please go ahead.
My opinion was that the push system, where the channeling from the distribution point to end user, where demand is not like how can I put it? Where where the demand is not consolidated in the sense like you're seeing the things move, but you are just pushing, hoping that they'll be used. I thought that system would work well where there's a sort of supervision on the ground where people will be able to look at what they've received and also have a communication system where they can alert the people who are pushing that they are getting more or less, so that there is some regulation of what is being pushed. And then the pull system, where I looked at it, was that it's ideal in situations where people are sort of like more literate to inventory control system where they can look at their stocks, they know what's happening in their inventory, and they can actively raise orders that are relevant to their to the kind of demand that they experience in those centers. That's how I looked at it. And I from the way I looked at it also is that there's no superior system depending on the situation on the ground. You can then modify any of the two or even use both push and pull in the same supply chain so that you try and enhance efficiency.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew. Very valid points. I think it's important to understand that in a okay, Andrew, I'm just muting you. There is some noise coming from your side. Yeah. So it is important to understand that in a supply chain, you are not limited to using only one system. First of all, you know, you can create categories of products and have different distribution models for them, depending on availability of data, depending on your transport methods, depending on your inventory cycles. And of course, like for example, Lynette mentioned if there's a new program or an old program. So all those factors, and use that. So use that category management system to decide which categories of products would have a better chance of would have a better stock performance overall with a push system versus which are those which will work well with a pull system. So that is one option. A question that I asked in the discussion group is about something called informed push, and this is a new technique which uh, and that is a new technique which a lot of organizations in the public sector, public health sector, are now using. So what is informed push? Now, in traditional push, what happens is as soon as commodities are received at a higher level, let's say the central warehouse, they just push it to the intermediary warehouse or to the service delivery points. They can be hospitals or health facilities, primary health facilities, secondary health facilities, those kind of things. They don't really think if they need the stock or not, or if there are any like stockouts are there or overstocking is there. They don't really look at that. They just push the products as soon as they receive them. Now, someone rightly said that this kind of system works well when it is an emergency, worldwide emergency, or a countrywide emergency like COVID. Or, for example, if it is a new program, you don't really know what to expect. So based on a standard set of inventory, just push the products to the downward level. Once it's an established program, what informed push is all about is that you push the product based on information. So this works well when there is a ELMIS. So, as we are moving towards ELMIS, visibility on data is becoming better. So someone who's sitting at a central warehouse, may see, that, okay, for the intermediary stores or for the service delivery points, what is the stock level? Because staff at that location are updating their stock level on a daily or a weekly basis. So what informed push method does, based on that information which that central warehouse or the intermediary warehouses are receiving from their dashboard, as soon as the stock reaches a minimum level, they would push additional stock. Okay, this way they remove the order request procedure. So there is no order request procedure. There can be emergency order request procedure, but in general, there is no order request procedure. As soon as they see the data that, okay, the stock is going at a minimum level, they will push additional stock to that intermediary store or to that service delivery points to make sure that they have stock for the next period of operation. So that is what we call informed push. It works when there is a ELMIS system and there is a high visibility on stock levels on a daily, weekly basis. Okay, so that is what people are moving towards, because there are several procedures it removes. For example, a pharmacist who's in charge of a service delivery point, the pharmacist primary role is actually dispensing and counseling. However, that pharmacist is also utilizing his or her time in preparing order requests by reviewing the stock. And that is not really the best use of that pharmacist's time if it is a very high load pharmacy and service delivery points. So in those cases, an informed push system works excellent. The pharmacists still have a way to raise emergency order requests, but most of the times it's the upper warehouse who will review the stock levels and just push the products, you know. Lloyd, you have raised your hands. If you have a question, please go ahead.
Thank you. It's not a question, but just in addition to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So sometime back in Zimbabwe here, we have what we call the Zimbabwe Informed Push System, ZIP.
Mm-hmm.
However, we were not making use of the electronic ELMIS. However, the delivery team would actually then, when they visit every facility, they would look at the consumption there. Then they would leave products that would meet the demand of that particular facility, informed by the consumption on the store cards and other consumption records.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's Zaps.
So we used to call it the Zimbabwe Informed Push System.
Yeah, so Zaps, I think you're talking about Zaps. So Zaps is more or less on the same model. Sorry, Lloyd, you said something?
It was called ZIP, Zimbabwe Informed Push System. Now Zaps is a pull system.
Okay. All right.
In Zaps, we are saying Zimbabwe as a pull system, where actually it's not a push, but a pull system. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the idea is the same. See, the main determinant is information, stock information. So if there is a way where regular stock updates are there, so someone who's a logistics personnel and not really a pharmacist or a nurse whose primary job is something else, they can actually look at the stock level and do a resupply without any order request. That is ideally the informed push model, because then it reduces a lot of work for everyone and the accuracy is high. You know, in manual order request, there is low accuracy. A lot of times people may order more than what they require. They may not look at their consumption patterns, but all this is negated using an informed push model. But I think in many countries who are on ELMIS, they are still not able to do that efficiently because of issues with transportation, issues with data collection. Because a key issue about this informed push system is that the pharmacist or whoever is managing the store at the last mile, the service delivery point, they have to regularly update the data. So if they don't update the data, the entire system fails. So that is the main drawback of this system. But you know, the system has more pros than cons. Okay, so keep those things in mind. Next time, if you're part of these kind of discussions, make sure you can, you know, talk about advanced system and how to create them. So moving ahead, in today's session, we will discuss the concept of outsourcing and how should you approach outsourcing. We will also discuss if you need outsourcing, if outsourcing is always helpful or not. So we'll discuss all those questions as well. Okay. So quickly, 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So what is outsourcing first of all? So if you engage a third party provider to perform services for your own organization, so services which you were generally doing, but now you want a third party organization to do it for you. Okay, that is called outsourcing. Several functions in supply chain can be outsourced, like procurement can be outsourced, warehousing can be outsourced. In the previous week, we were discussing if a warehouse can be rented or if a warehouse can be taken on lease from a third party which is already managing a warehouse. So they will give you a space to store your products. They will manage everything. It's just that someone has to deliver those products to the warehouse. They will manage it. They will do all the warehouse processes. So you just pay them for the services. Okay. Transportation can be outsourced. Okay, both international and in country. Security can be outsourced. So, for example, the security guards that you put in your offices or warehouses, they can be outsourced staff. It's not necessary to have in-house recruitment of security personnel. Information management can also be outsourced. Someone else is managing the entire information management for you. Okay. Now, in most countries, however, the most common outsourced function is transportation. And that is the reality. We still, in public health supply chains, we still have not understood the merits of outsourcing. I think this leads to a, no, okay. So the poll, okay, there was a poll somewhere. I don't know where it is, but let's go through this slide. So how is outsourcing beneficial? So there are multiple advantages of outsourcing supply chain functions, which can solve certain issues that you are facing in your organization. However, if you are going towards outsourcing, you have to make sure that you can manage the outsourced provider, the provider who is giving you those services. If you are not able to manage the provider, then the entire system may backfire. So let's see some of the issues which can be solved by outsourcing. So one issue is lack of in-house skills. So for example, in public health, majority of the staff are pharmacists, doctors, and nurses, and maybe some technicians and other life science staff. They don't have a formal logistics education. So if in your country, there are organizations where the staff has formal logistics education, then you can outsource some functions to them because they will bring specialized skills, which you don't have as an organization. Second, you have limited resources at your disposal. There's always turnover, people come and go. And if, for example, you are investing in a new program and you know that new program would mean that you would need more space to store products, you would need more transport services like trucks or vans or whatever to manage that increase in the flow, and you don't really have that capital. So instead of investing yourself, you can actually outsource the entire program to a service provider, because then you can expand, you can have a new program, but you don't really have to invest in big capital equipment, which is eventually a sunk cost. Because once you buy a truck or you create a warehouse, that money is gone, and then they are also depreciating assets, so they are not contributing to your operation, from a financial point of view. Third, in public health, there are several times when the volumes that you are transporting within the country are quite small, and your trucks or vans are going half empty, one-fourth empty, or three-fourth empty sometimes, because it's an emergency, for example. So when you send trucks, vans, or whatever, half empty, not utilizing the entire space, you are losing money, because the truck is still using almost the same amount of fuel. Yeah. You still have to pay the driver. Yeah. The truck may come back empty. So all those things work against you and you lose money. If you have an outsourced provider, that issue is also solved, because they are not just doing the services for you, they will have 5 other clients. So for them, they will combine some of the orders if they are going to a same location. Okay. You just have to ensure that your products are kept in the right transport conditions, which are for any pharmaceuticals, whatever they are. Okay. Same is variable demand. Uh, Sometimes in health, the service delivery points, they may not have a standardized demand. Sometimes they may need more products. Let's say there is an outbreak. Sometimes the product consumption may be low. So it keeps on changing. So if you have invested in your fleet based on the peak season, so possibly 9 months out of 12 months, half of your fleet is sitting idle. They're not doing anything. Okay. So you have to think about that as well. And then in public health, we also have to think about service delivery. How good are your service levels? For example, are you distributing on time, in full? What is your lead time? What is your wastage rate? So all those things you have to figure out. If you do it by yourself, those things may be quite high because of the other 4 reasons in the slide. But if you give it to a third party logistics and give them standardized indicators, performance indicators, then you are able to manage that. Okay. So these are certain issues which you can solve using outsourcing. However, having said that, if your system is broken already, that you don't have visibility, you don't have proper inventory levels set in your system, if data collection is not happening correctly, if your warehouse processes are not efficient, that it takes eternity to pick and pack, if those things are problematic in your system, then outsourcing transportation is not going to help you. Then you have to outsource the entire thing. Then you may also outsource the entire warehousing services, or you may also want to outsource the entire procurement services. Okay. So you have to think as managers, you have to think about that. So Fungi here is saying, here in Zimbabwe, one of the service providers for warehousing and material handling is Bark Logistics. They have good storage space, warehouse management system, equipment, and the security. Now, Fungi, I hope this is not a marketing stunt. I'm just kidding. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. In some countries, they have specialized third-party logistics organizations. Just like in Zimbabwe, there is Bark Logistics. I think there's one more, Seva Logistics, which are very big. It's a global company. They do logistics of everything and anything. To a point that they are also logistics partner of Formula One race. I don't know how many of you know about Formula One race, but the logistics of Formula One race is insane, because the race happens in 20 countries. And sometimes to ship everything from one country to the other, they only have like about 3 or 4 days. And everything, Seva Logistics manages it for them. Okay. So it's good that in Zimbabwe, there are specialized organizations who are able to do that. Not many countries have that. And we will talk about that in the coming slides as well. So thank you, Fungi. That's a great point that you have mentioned. So there are these issues that we can solve. These are the advantages of a third party logistics. So is outsourcing recommended everywhere? Let's figure out. But before we do, let's look at a case study from World Food Program. Now, this case study is taken from the case study booklet, which we sent you earlier today. There are excellent cases about outsourcing in that booklet. Make sure you read them because it will help you understand the pros and cons of outsourcing and how different countries or organizations are doing it. In this case, for World Food Program, they utilize 5,000 trucks globally every day. And now probably even more, because this case study is about 4 or 5 years old. So probably even more, because the conflict has increased globally. During COVID, the World Food Program was quite active in many countries. So their daily operation has increased actually. However, majority of these trucks are managed by service providers, outsourced service providers. They say LSP, which is logistic service provider. It's the same concept. They only operate 800 of their own vehicles, maybe a bit more now. Okay. Only in the areas where there is no commercial market or where the routes are not commercially viable. This takes me back to the point that Fungi mentioned. If in a country there is no commercial market for logistics third-party logistics, then you have no choice but to do everything in-house. I'll take an example of Sudan. So in Sudan, the central medical store is called National Medical Supplies Fund. In Sudan, the outsourcing transportation market is very small and the players are not very good. So NMSF has their own fleet. They also have small portion of outsourced vendors as well for very specific geographies, but they have a big fleet, their own fleet. And it makes sense in Sudan because they don't have a market. So they have no option. But in Zimbabwe, where you have more than one provider, you may have 3 or 4 good providers. I mean, 2 of them I know. I'm sure there are a few more as well because of the competition that it has created. It is more advisable for any public health or private organization who's actually managing pharmaceutical products to use those, rather than investing in their own. Coming back to World Food Program, so they have a pre-qualification system where they check for the quality and efficiency of the logistics service provider. They create contracts with indicator system, performance-based indicators, and the contracts are based on single rate, that okay, distance and weight, okay, and based on that, they will get into a contract with a logistics service provider. So contracts are issued 6 to 12 months period, and there is a regular performance assessment. Competition is encouraged, and multiple providers are often contracted for the same route. And you can think, why is that? Because if one contractor is not available on a particular day, they can get the services from another. Okay, so it's also important, if you have large volumes, you can play around with those volumes and have more than one provider for yourself. Okay, so this is a positive case study with respect to outsourcing. We have a negative one as well in the slides. We'll see. So when to consider outsourcing? So the question which we asked initially, that is outsourcing recommended everywhere? So we will discuss it now. So there are 2 types of conditions which has to be put in place or which has to be considered before going for outsourcing. The first is internal conditions. Internal conditions are those which are related to your own organization. So for example, let's take an example of Nat Farm. I'm not sure if Nat Farm has their in-house fleet or they have outsourced. If anyone knows, please put it in the chat. Okay. So if we take an example of Nat Farm, so we need to understand what is the core competency of that organization. Is that procurement? Is that managing health programs? Is that warehousing, storage, and transportation? What is the core competency? If they have core competencies on everything, then that's okay. They don't need to outsource that function. Second, reviewing operational processes to find poorly performing areas. Now, it can be a core competency, but it may not be performing well because of multiple issues. Like we discussed, people may not have enough skills because of variable demand, low volume, so on and so forth. So if there are certain functions which are not performing as per what is required, then there is a case for outsourcing. Third is ability to manage outsourced vendor, which I said also earlier, that if you are not able to manage the vendor, if you go for outsourcing, then you should not go for outsourcing, because you have to manage the vendor. Otherwise, the vendor will do whatever they want. So you have to create strict contract conditions. You have to be able to manage performance, just like World Food Program was doing. You have to be able to negotiate proper prices. Okay, so all those you have to do. You have to coordinate with them. And finally, is it technically and politically feasible? In many countries, the reason they have their own fleet is because it leads to recruitment of more people and giving jobs to people. And many times it is politically motivated, because the government is able to show that, see, we have given 300 jobs, because there are truck drivers, there are security guards, there are warehouse people, so on and so forth. That's why they don't want to outsource, because then those jobs will be taken away if someone else is doing in the private sector. And the same people who are getting jobs in the public sector may not be able to get the jobs in the private sector. So we also have to look at the political angle here. But if everything is positive, that yes, let's say transportation is not our core competency, we're also finding issues in transportation. We do have staff who can manage the vendor, and it is also technically and politically feasible, right? Then there is a case that you have created to go for outsourcing. But is that it? No. You also have to look at external conditions. External conditions is looking at the market. So if you have realized that outsourcing can solve some of your issues, before going towards that, you need to do a private sector analysis. You have to be able to see that there are adequate players in the market who are at the right quality level. Now I come to an example of Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, the National Supply Chain Organization is called EPSS, Ethiopian Pharmaceutical Supply Services. EPSS has their own fleet. EPSS has a central warehouse, and then they have 17 regional warehouses. Ethiopia is a big country. Huh? It has 17 regional warehouses and a central warehouse. So the trucks of EPSS, they go from the central warehouse to the regional warehouse. From regional warehouse, it's a multimodal solution where sometimes the hospitals or the stores, smaller stores or service delivery points, they come to collect. And sometimes they can also send using their own smaller vehicles. Okay, so after regional stores, it's not fixed. But under regional stores, EPSS has multiple trucks, some situated at the central level, some situated at the regional level. The regional level also sends products using trucks to some bigger hospitals, for example. So they have their own in-house fleet. And the reason being, Ethiopian market is still not open as a globalized market. So there are no global logistics player in the country. In the local ones, their capacity is very limited. So there was a study which was done in 2019. They compared EPSS fleet versus 20 other logistics provider, and EPSS was number one in terms of efficiency, cost management, route management, everything else. Okay, so that shows that you really have to make sure that there is adequate number of quality players in the market, so that one, quality is not compromised. Number two, you are able to achieve good prices. Number three, if you select a logistics provider, they should be able to reach the length and breadth of the country. You should not be entering into a contract where the provider says, oh, but we can't cover this province. So then you will have to invest in your own fleet or find another provider, and that may become complicated. You may also go for more than one provider, but in all the providers that you select, they should be able to cover the entire country. Okay, I can give another example of India, HIV/AIDS program. They have two service providers. Both are Indian providers. Between those two providers, they cover the entire country. So they have dedicated. So India is divided into states. So each provider has about 10 to 12 states. Okay, and that's how they manage the entire delivery of HIV/AIDS products. The second thing that you need to look into as an external condition, we call it cost benefit analysis. So if you're going for outsourcing, the cost should be less than the cost of transportation. For example, if you're doing it yourself, it should be relatively, like, significantly less. Second, it should also lead to improvement in service delivery. So for example, your lead times should reduce. You should be able to send products on time, in full. uh, your wastage rates should reduce. Quality incidents should reduce. So all those things must reduce. Okay, otherwise there is no benefit. Yes, there might be cost benefit, but it has to be more than cost benefit. Okay. Third, process maturity of existing companies, which is also linked with the first point, that how mature are the processes of the service providers? Can they follow good distribution and storage practices? And can they manage within the required lead times and volumes? Like we discussed initially, in health, the volume sometimes can be lower. You may not be able to fill a whole vehicle, but still you have to send those products because it may be an emergency, right? So all those things has to be considered while identifying and selecting a service provider. More specifically in transportation, in all other supply chain functions it can be done. In those cases, your indicators and your checks and balances would change, but these three buckets that we talked about will stay the same. Okay, so now if you have any question, this is the right time to ask. I'm going to launch a poll. In the meantime, you can ask me any questions related to what we have discussed as of now, and you can also answer the poll as well. Okay, so there is a poll on your screen. In the meantime, if there is any question related to what we have discussed so far, please, you can either speak or put it in the chat. I'm going to wait for a minute or two. So there is a poll on the screen. Please respond to that. Is the poll visible? When I can launch it again. Okay, yes, Shamin is saying yes. But I don't see any responses. I don't know why I'm not able to see any responses. Are you able to respond to the poll, which is on your screen?
Yes, I managed to respond. I managed to
Yes,
respond.
already responded.
Okay, but then there is some issue then. Okay, because I don't see any results on the polling system. It confirmed. Okay, that's weird. Okay, let me see if I end the poll. No. Okay. So I see it here. All right. So something is wrong somewhere, but I see the result. Okay. So I've just ended the poll. If anyone has not responded to the poll yet, so just put A, B, or C in the chat. Okay. But if I see the current result, 55% of the people in the session, they're saying transportation is outsourced. 23% are saying warehousing is outsourced. And another 23% are saying no, everything is managed by the government agency. So conclusion probably is NatFarm has their own fleet, but in private sector, people who are coming from the private sector, they have an outsourced mechanism. So that is what my conclusion is. Okay. So if my conclusion is correct, someone can write yes in the chat or no in the chat. But that is my conclusion. Yeah, transportation is outsourced in private sector. Thank you, Hazel. Okay, so now we see that transportation, warehousing are common functions to be outsourced even in Zimbabwe. Okay, so moving on, if there are no questions, we can go to managing outsourcing, the next section. If you have any question, please, you can just ask. You can put in the chat, or you can also speak directly. Okay, but let's move to the next section. So once you have decided to go for outsourcing, so how will you manage it? Because it might be difficult to manage another organization. So first of all, the first step is clarifying expectations at the very beginning. Outsourcing is a service contract. So any organization who wants to enter into a service contract, ideally you should first publish an RFP, request for proposal. It is different from ITB when you ask for supply of products. When you ask for supply of products, you raise something called an ITB, invitation to bid. So ITB or RFQ is for products. RFP is an ideal instrument to engage in services contract. RFP is request for proposal. So when you create a request for proposal, you list down a scope of work that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is required as a service. So for example, for an outsourced provider to manage transportation, you can say the outsourced provider should have their own fleet, and the fleet may consist of trucks, vans, smaller pickup trucks, motorbikes, probably drones, I don't know, whatever is required. They should be able to pick the products from point A, whatever is point B, point A, and deliver it to all these various points, wherever you want them to be delivered, and list them out one by one, all the various points where the delivery has to happen. Number three, the kinds of volumes you're expecting, let's say in quarterly, the kind of delivery schedules that you have. Let's say you have a bi-weekly delivery schedule, or some may call it fortnightly, for example, in every 15 days. Then what are your lead times? What is your expected lead time? What would be your ideal vehicle fulfillment? So all those kind of things you can already put in an RFP, so that the service provider who's going to send a proposal, they know already what to expect. The same conditions has to be put in the contract once you select your service provider. So the same conditions in RFP and in the contract. Then while you are negotiating, because there will be a negotiation stage, you have to agree on detailed key performance indicators and service levels. So you have to identify KPIs for the outsourced vendors and what are the acceptable levels for that KPI, which we call service levels. Okay, so that has to be agreed. Then once the execution starts, you have to monitor those KPIs with every delivery schedule. And then quarterly, you can create a report, discuss with your provider that, okay, this was good, but this was not good. There is improvement needed, and they can, manage that. Okay. The key here is transparency and communication. When I say communication, it can also be visibility. Okay. So that both parties, they know what to expect, how to manage, and there are, similar level of trust, communication, and transparency going around. One more key thing here is also payment terms. It is quite common in public health, and I've seen many instances where the provider is doing their best, but when they submit the invoices, it takes eternity for the public organization to process that payment, and that really discourages the service provider. Eventually, what they start to do is they start to, try to absorb those costs, and that eventually leads to lower service levels. So payment cycles are very important, because you have to understand that for the public sector, this entire business of pharmaceutical or health supply chain is a service. It's not really a business, it's a service. But for your vendor, even if, let's say, that's a pharmaceutical company or a logistics provider or a transportation provider or whatever that is, they are private sector. It is their business. They are there to make profits. So if you don't pay them properly, they are going to find other ways to make sure that they extract the same amount in other kinds of value. Okay. So sometimes some organizations may levy interest, some organization may want advance payments because they know your track record is not good. Some organization may take 2 contracts at a time, so they will pick up your products as well, and also pick up some other products as well. It may lead to delays. I'm not talking about some good organizations. Most organizations don't do that, but there are many who still do that, and it's not their fault because they also have to earn a living. Okay, so all those things has to be kept in mind. So this is a negative example of outsourcing. Negative example from the perspective of a central medical store. And this is a case from Mozambique. Now, in Mozambique, the central medical store doesn't want to outsource because they think that outsourcing will cost more than operating in-house fleet. They also think that the service provider should always be available, which may not be the right strategy. From the perspective of a service provider, they say that their most competitive rate is dependent on good vehicle utilization. However, in the case of central medical store, one, vehicle utilization is not good. Second, the wait time is very high. So if a truck is sitting at a warehouse for an entire day, in comparison to spending just 2 or 3 hours for loading and then dispatching, the company is losing money over there, right? Because that truck could have delivered those products and gone to fulfill another request, right? So it's a give and take system. The public sector should not expect that the service provider should be available at their beck and call, and then also feel that since they are paying the money, the service providers are getting rich. It's literally a give and take. If you have good systems, if you manage your service providers well, they will also treat you well. They will also make sure that your service levels are met. So I go back to my previous statement in the beginning that you cannot outsource your problems. If you really have systemic problems, outsourcing those functions will not solve it. You have to first fix your internal issues and then go for outsourcing. Okay. All right. Now we would like to discuss the case of Uganda. So in Uganda, the central medical store is called NMS, National Medical Stores. In East African community, they are one of the best central medical stores in terms of service delivery. Okay, Uganda is also a small country in which ways. So last mile delivery to healthcare facilities is now done by private third party logistics. I mean, initially NMS had their own fleet, but they were facing a lot of challenges. So they decided to do a third party logistics scheme. So initially they did a pilot project to understand benefits and challenges. Transportation from central warehouse to district depot. It was performed by the central fleet, so their own fleet, while transportation from the district depot was contracted out to the service providers. Okay, so it was a system where NMS also had their own fleet up to the district depot, but from district depot to all the health facilities, it was contracted out. Okay, so they decided on a multimodal solution with two providers, not just one, but two providers. Multimodal solution means that from district to health facilities, the products will go either in a small pickup truck. If it is a big hospital, then in a big truck, 20 or 40-foot containers truck. If it is a very small facility, then probably bikes, because there were good availability of motorbikes as well. So that's a multimodal solution. And they also had boats, I think, for some couple of regions. So providers were selected for 1-year contracts after a rigorous procurement process and detailed background checks. So they were not just handing over the contracts, but they did a proper RFP. Okay. 5 business days was the service level for providers to reach the health facilities. So this was the service level. The vendors were not doing single runs. So like they collect products for one facility and send it, but they were doing it for multiple facilities at once. And hence it was 5 business days. So they would load products for multiple facilities at once, and then they will deliver one by one and come back. And sometimes coming back with other products from damaged products, expired products, something to dispose of, those things while coming back to the district depot. And from district depot, NMS's own fleet will carry it down to the central level if needed, or it would be disposed of at the district level. As a result, the accuracy and timeliness of product delivery has improved significantly. That is the summary of this case. Details are there in the document, which you have in your inboxes and also on the lesson, which is on the Hive. So you should read about the entire case. NMS is still using a very similar structure even today. This is from like 4 or 5 years ago. But now from central to district, they also have an outsourced vendor. So they still have their own fleet, but they also have outsourced vendors. Okay, so they are doing it in an excellent way. And I think if I remember correctly, either they have done it already, but last I remember they were in the plans of removing the entire concept of district depot. So they were in plans, just remove district depot because it was creating an unnecessary level, adding cost to their operation. So now what they were planning is to send the products directly from the central warehouse to all service delivery points using outsourced model. I mean, part of it was still in-house, but majority outsourced. I'm not sure if it has been done or not, but last I remember when I was working in Uganda, this was the plan, which was under process. Okay. So it is also done in many countries where they remove any intermediary storage and distribution. In some countries, they do something called cross-docking. So cross-docking is nothing but a point where products come in bulk. They kind of repurpose it and send it in small batches to the place which are needed. So it's not really a storage location. It's literally an swift operation where products come in on a daily basis, put together in different batches, different modes of transports are then used and sent to their destination. So literally the storage time is negligible over there. Okay. And some cross-docking operations are quite huge. I mean, depending on not in health, but in other sectors, maybe a huge operation of cross-docking. Okay, and it can be huge cross-docking with big containers, So it also works like that in other industries. I don't think in health it is very prevalent. So this is a great example where outsourcing works excellent. Like I said, in India, the HIV/AIDS model is also very excellent. I think last I heard they had an 80% service level, which was great, compared to 2 years back when it was close to only 30%. So you see the difference that they were able to achieve, with the outsourced providers. So outsourcing is sometimes beneficial, but if in the country you don't really have providers, if the quality of providers is not good, then it does not make sense. Like I gave you examples of Sudan, Ethiopia, and I'm sure there are other countries as well. Okay. So the golden question, is outsourcing cheaper? What do you think? The floor is open. Anyone who wants to respond. There are no right or wrong questions, I must say. Sorry, no right or wrong answers, I must say. So please don't worry if you think that you're going to sound stupid when you respond. Don't worry about that. Just give me what you think. Someone has unmuted.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Blessing.
Hopefully, I'm not going to say something stupid, but
No. Carry on.
But I think outsourcing in some instances is cheaper and in some instances expensive. Why am I saying so? If you outsource your core business, if you outsource your core business, sometimes it becomes expensive to you when it comes to your customers. The way the outsourced parts behave when they get your customers is different to your mission, to your vision and your goals. They are not part of your mission. They are not part of your goals. So the way they behave when they go there to your customer, if you outsource your core business, it kills your business. It kills everything. But in other words, it's also cheaper because it allows you to concentrate on your core competencies. Let's say you do a certain type of business, but you're not competitive when it comes to security. It's very important for you to outsource. It is also. I will give you an example. If you don't outsource security, and if your company or if your employees are involved in this industrial action, they are doing a demonstration, it means the internal security is also going to join in that demonstration. And if that security is outsourced, when your internal employees are in a demonstration, you will be very sure that your property is going to be safe because the security is outsourced. I think I'll leave there.
Yeah. Blessing you. It has been a blessing to hear from you. You are absolutely right. There are various circumstances where outsourcing can be expensive and can be cheaper as well, depending on how we look at it and how we manage it. I'm going to summarize it later, but I want to hear from some other people before I summarize. So great start by Blessing. Andrew.
Well, look at it really that outsourcing can be cheap if that's your plan. Because you are the guy who is running your enterprise and you know where your weaknesses are and you know where to get the expertise. That if you believe that if you give to someone who is specialized in that, it will be done correctly and it frees your time and also frees your time for other critical activities that you do. So it's a case of deciding which component of your business would you want to outsource? And in a in an economy where such services, products and services are available and there's competition, chances are you may find that outsourcing will be cheaper, will be cheap instead of you running all your functions, but giving freeing yourself time and giving specialized companies to handle those things that they can do better than you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew. Anyone? No, sorry, I don't know if Andrew and Blessing were from the private sector, but can we hear a practical example from a private sector who's actually doing that? Okay, there is something on the chat from Fungi. Depends on the outsourced services. If the organization is small, it doesn't have enough resources. Outsourcing can be quite expensive. Yeah, okay, good point. Any practical example from the private sector where okay, Lynette, please go on.
Good day, everyone. I'll give a practical example of what we do. We're into warehousing and distributing. So we deliver in Harare, throughout Harare and Bulawayo. Then we're in areas where we're not able to deliver our products and services, we outsource transportation such as Swift and overnight. I think that's one of the practical example I can give.
Lynette, can you just quickly state your organization?
PCD.
Sorry, can you?
Okay, pharmaceutical and chemical distributors.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Yeah, so great point, Lynette. Probably one more point of view, and then I will summarize. Anyone else wants to add another point of view? After then, I can summarize this discussion.
Maybe sorry, maybe come back.
Blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, a good example is you need to transport a small parcel to Harare from, let's say, Bulawayo. It's a small parcel. For you to take it on your own to Harare, a box of paracetamol to Harare, it becomes very expensive to you. I mean, the owner of the business. But for it to take into Harare, you need to outsource now. You need to outsource transport parcel from Bulawayo to Harare.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so in summary, it depends on your business. I like what Fungi said. It depends on. I mean, I don't think if it is about being small or being big, but I think what you're trying to say is the volume. It is important to know at what volume outsourcing will become cheaper than in-house. Okay, because if your volume is less, then you will eventually be paying more money, when you are sending products. Okay, I'm not sure what is your exact name, but you're saying we outsource security, courier service, shipping agents. Exactly. So these are not your core competencies, and if it is not your core competency, you should not be dwelling in that. So again, the same discussion that we have been having since the beginning. If it is not your core competency, and if you think that outsourcing will create more value, then eventually you will see that it will be cheaper if you do it right. But if you don't manage your providers properly, if your volumes are not high enough to get good rates, if there is less competition in the country, it might be possible that you are paying more for outsourcing than what it would have costed you if you did it yourself. Okay, so it really depends on the condition. Outsourcing is not always cheaper, but more often than not, it is cheaper if you do it right. Specifically, when we talk about supply chains, warehousing, transportation, if you have a good volume that needs to be stored and transported, it might eventually be cheaper for you in the long run doing it through outsourced service providers. But of course, you have to go through all the conditions which we discussed in this session. Okay. So, which supply chain function will work better? Sorry, 1 second. I see some. Okay. Okay, so it's on your screen now. Which supply chain function in your country will perform better if it is outsourced? Full transportation, last mile transportation and logistics, warehousing, procurement, or human resource management? What do you think? I think that's the last technical poll. Yes. So this is the last poll. So let us know what you think. I'll wait for a minute and then I will stop it. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, please don't hesitate to talk about it. Yeah. Okay, someone has unmuted. Okay, no. No, okay. All right. So I hope most of you have participated in the poll. Let's see. Okay, so majority of you are saying if last mile transportation and reverse logistics are outsourced, they will perform better. And I hope you are right. I mean, I really can't say because I will have to do a much deeper analysis of the Zimbabwe system, but I trust your judgment because I've been also reading several responses in the discussions where the service levels at the last mile are not really great. So I think it will solve a lot of your issues. But having said that, all the conditions that we discussed in the session has to be met. Okay. All right. So we are at the end of this session. If you have any questions about outsourcing, please ask me. If you have any comments you want to share, please do that. I can just wait for about 10-20 seconds if someone has to ask or say something. Otherwise, then I'll go to some administrative information that I would like to talk about completing this course. Okay. So let me wait for a few seconds. Okay. All right. So as you're going to finish this course, you will see a course evaluation at the end before the course assessment. This evaluation is important to us. It will tell us your overall experience of the course, things you liked in the course, things you disliked in the course, and what can we improve. We take this evaluation very seriously. We take this evaluation so seriously that we are in the process of submitting a research paper on this evaluation. So we collect this from all the students. Like I said, 400 plus students have completed this course. So we have all the data and we in the process of publishing a paper on how these online courses are doing, what are the challenges, how we are solving it, all those issues. So we take it very seriously. So I hope you can provide us your honest answers. Now, having said that, I always like when I review the course evaluation, when I see ratings which are given 10. I'm not trying to influence you, by the way. Okay, but please give us your honest opinion. We would love to hear from you, and whatever improvements that are needed, we will try to do them in the coming cohorts. I also know that some of you have struggled with the completion issues. We have been trying to fix that for some time now. And hopefully in the next coming months, that entire issue will be solved entirely. So for example, we have been able to solve it on the app. So I don't think we have received any completion issues for people who are using the app. So if you are using the app and you still face any completion issues, please do let me know, because from our own understanding, the completion issue is not on the app, it is only on the web. Okay. And if you're using browser on your phone, then it is probably even higher. It's because of a caching issue. I mean, I don't want to go into the detail of IT and all, but sometimes what happens is the system does not register once the video is finished. So we're trying to figure that out for the web. But if someone has seen that on the app, please do let us know, because then we know that it is consistent on the app, because from our side, it is not in the app. Okay. But if there are any other technical issues that you have been facing other than the completion issues, please do let us know. We take that as a scope of improvement, and we continuously improve our systems. Okay. I come back to this again because this is important. The last date of completing this course is 5th February. After that, if you haven't completed the course, or if you haven't been able to achieve 60% in the assessment, no additional time will be given. Okay. Then either you have to apply again in another cohort, or if it is only about the assessment, then you have to pay a penalty and get more attempts for the assessment, as it is mentioned on the slide. Okay. It is a very strict guideline imposed on us by our accreditation agency, and we have to follow that, otherwise we will lose that accreditation. Okay. For students who are registered licensed pharmacists or pharmacy technicians in Zimbabwe, if you want the Pharmacy Council CPD points, please write to us in advance, so that as soon as you finish your course, we can apply for those CPD points with the Pharmacy Council, which you will get in your license. Okay. So please make sure, if you're a licensed pharmacist or a licensed pharmacy technician, please do let us know in advance, so that we can create that list of students and send to PCZ. Okay. I say again, the final assessment is a bit tough. So make sure you study properly so that you pass the assessment in 5 attempts. If you need more attempts, you have to reach out to Priyanka and Wilson. You will have to pay a penalty of $50, and then you can get 5 more attempts. But that will be it. You will not get any further attempts. There will not be any penalty fee, and you will also not be able to apply again, because you've already done the course. So we are very strict in that. You will have access to the course, but you will not receive the certificate. Everyone who finishes the course, you will be added to an alumni group. As you will be part of the alumni group, you will have access to this course until you are a member of the Hive. So you can anytime come back, revisit any video, revisit any additional material which is there. And as we keep on upgrading the course, you will also get those upgrades as well. So we are not going to charge you for the access in future. You will have access for until when the Hive is there. Okay, so that is a good thing. So make sure you keep on coming back if you want to look at something, revisit some other things. You may also want to teach some of your colleagues if you want. But if you want us to organize specific cohorts in your organization itself, like if you have more than 30 people, for example, you can reach out to Wilson, Priyanka, or directly to myself. We have specific cohort packages in that sense, that we organize closed organizational specific cohorts as well. So for example, right now we're doing one in Madagascar. It's a cohort in French, but all of them, 25 students are from one organization. They are from the supply chain organization. Some are from the central level, some are from the regional level, and some are even from the peripheral levels. So they're all learning together. So if you have something like that, you want to, make sure that your other colleagues and staff in the company also learn from this course. So please do reach out to us. So at the end, I would like to announce again, and I think all of you already know, that there will be a physical certification ceremony. We have decided on the venue. It's the Mandel Training Center in Harare. The date is most likely to be, sorry, one second. The date is most likely to be 10th of February. And the timings will, again, most likely, it's not confirmed yet, will be late afternoon from 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Okay. We will send the agenda in advance. We are still finalizing, the date and time with the keynote speaker who's coming from UNDP. So that's why the timings may change slightly. Okay. But most likely it will be the late afternoon only. The certification ceremony is for everyone, whether or not you have got the cert. Like if you have not completed the course, you can still participate because it's also a networking event. But on that day, only those students will receive the certificates who have completed the course by 5th of February. Okay, so if you complete it by 5th of February, then we will have certain days to create your certificates, print them, so that we can hand it over to you on 10th. There is no admission fee. So everyone is welcome to join. People who are not based in Harare, you will receive an online link to join virtually, and your certificates will also be handed over virtually. Okay. If someone who's not in Harare but want a physical certificate, you can let us know in advance. Those certificates then will be with Wilson Chandomba, and then you can collect from him. Okay. So that is the end of today's session. That is the end of all the technical sessions as part of this course. We have some time left in today's session. So if you have any questions, technical or administrative, you can ask me. Unfortunately, Priyanka was not available today. She had a family, commitment. So she sends her best, but she will be back to work on Friday because tomorrow is a holiday in India. So she'll be back to work on Friday, and then she will coordinate with you for everything else, like completing the course, ceremony, and everything. Okay. But if you have any questions for me today, now is the time, or else we will close this session in the next few minutes. I thank you all for listening to me. Today there was no guest speaker. We are trying to identify more speakers in the future cohorts, so that you don't have to listen to me all the time. And then we will bring other international guest speakers as well. All right. So any questions, any comments, anything is appreciated. And I see Patrick is in his car. So Patrick, great that you were able to join us even though you are in a car. So thank you so much. Synodia is asking, how do I get a gem? All of you will receive 200 gems after completing this course. If you complete this course, you will get 200 gems. Now, I also tell you one more reason why you should get gems. Now, some of you who may have gone through the waste management course, you may see that you have received 50 gems. Yeah. If you have gems in your account, in future B-skilled courses, there will be a provision for an additional discount if you have gems. So with each course, it will be slightly different, but you will be able to redeem your gems to get discounts if you pay online. It is not available if you pay locally, but only online. So getting gems is good. You can redeem those gems. It's just like a coupon or a voucher. Okay. So you will, if you have gems, you can redeem them for additional discounts on Hive if you pay online. If you complete this course successfully, you will receive 200 gems because this is a bigger course. You will also receive 24 CPT points on the system. You will also receive a CPT badge on the system, which will be visible on your profile. So you receive a lot of things from us. And those gems can be further redeemed, in future courses, because we are developing multiple courses which are in the pipeline, and we will talk about them in the certification ceremony. So great question, Sinodia Matsirai. Any other questions? So if there are no other questions, let me launch the first poll now. So what is your mood now? That's also kind of a rating for me. I just wanted to change things around for today. Okay. So final poll. How do you feel right now? Are you feeling magnificent, good, okay, or maybe not well? Because I've said that assessment is tough, and you might not get a certificate if you don't pass. So let me know what you think, and after that we will close out this session. And I thank you all for being here. People who are not here, we will share the recording. But I really am. I appreciate all your time for being here and participating in this session. Okay, so let's see what the results are. Okay, so 88% people are either good or magnificent. I think there are a couple of people who are not well, maybe because they've heard that they may not get a certificate if they don't pass it, or maybe there's another reason. So I don't know. But hopefully you feel better. Lloyd is saying I didn't see the poll. Sorry, Lloyd. Maybe you can just write in the chat whether you feel magnificent, good, okay, or not well. Thank you everyone. Lloyd is saying good. So we have even higher percentage of people who are either good and magnificent. So thank you everyone. I wish you a great rest of the day, rest of the week, and then we will see you again in the certification ceremony. And hopefully I will visit Zimbabwe very soon, and then hopefully we will get to see each other physically as well. Yeah. So all right. Bye bye. For any issues, any queries, anything, you can reach out to me, Priyanka. There's a WhatsApp group. You all have our emails as well, and we will try to fix any issues as soon as possible. Tomorrow is a holiday in India, so our response time may be slightly slower, but we'll still try to fix any issues if you encounter. If not tomorrow, then definitely the day after we'll try to fix everything. Okay, but hopefully nothing should be an issue. Okay, try to use the app. The app has less bugs. The website sometimes creates some issues. Okay, so thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye. I'm going to end this session now.